Ready? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari In Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Mr. Pad Paramahansa Acharya Ashtottara to the Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Acharya Ashtottara to the Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. We need it. I need it. We keep the doors closed because there's noise in here. Hari. All right. So let me just make sure. Okay, I have beginning chapter 2. Yeah, right. That's what I've got. I hope it's right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, starting chapter 2. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 11th day of September 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we were beginning chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized, page 63. Sanjaya Vacha Tang Tata Kripayavishtam Ashru Purna Kolekshanam Vishidantam Idam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha Sanjaya Uvacha Tang Tata Kripayavishtam Ashru Purna Kolekshanam Vishidantamidam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha Sanjaya Uvacha Tang Tata Kripayavishtam Ashupurna Kolekshanam Vishidantamidam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha Sanjaya Uvacha Tang Tata Kripayavishtam Ashupurna Kolekshanam Vishidantamidam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha. Go ahead, Rasi. Sanjaya Uvacha Tang Tata Kripayavishtam Ashupurna Kolekshanam Vishidantamidam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha. Go ahead. Sanjaya Uvacha Tang Tata Kripayavishtam Ashupurna Kolekshanam Vishidantamidam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha. Sanjaya Uvacha Tang Tata Kripayavishtam Ashupurna Kolekshanam Vishidantamidam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudanaha. Sanjaya Uvacha, Sanjay said, Tam unto Arjuna, Tata, thus, Kripaya, by compassion, Avishtam, overwhelmed, Ashupurna Akula, full of tears, Ikshanam, eyes, Vishidantam, lamenting, Idam, these, Vakyam, words, Uvacha said, Madhusudanaha, the killer of Madhu. Translation, Sanjay said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudan, Krishna, spoke the following words. Purport. Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. The word Madhusudana is significant in this verse. Lord Krishna killed the demon Madhu, and now Arjuna wanted Krishna to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had overtaken him in the discharge of his duty. No one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. Similarly, a man fallen in the ocean of nescience cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, his material body. One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is called a Shudra, or one who laments unnecessarily. Arjuna was a Kshatriya, and this conduct was not expected from him. Lord Krishna, however, can dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man, and for this purpose the Bhagavad Gita was sung by him. This chapter instructs us in self-realization by an analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul, as explained by the Supreme Authority, Lord Sri Krishna. This realization is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive results and is situated in the fixed conception of the real self. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, we've completed the first chapter in which Arjuna suddenly is getting, what we say, cold feet, because he sees on the other side not the usual array of enemies who are more or less strangers, but his worshipful grandfather figure in Bhishma, his teacher Dronacharya, and so many other relatives and friends. And he is just moved by this feeling of compassion. That, and he'll say in the first few verses of the second chapter here, why should I want to enjoy this kingdom at the cost of all these great souls who are my teachers, my superiors, and all my friends and relatives? If I get the kingdom, it'll be sullied by their blood. It'll be tainted by their blood. And I'd rather. And he even says that I can't stand to even think of living without the sons of Dhritarashtra, who are led by Duryodhana, who they tried to kill him. So he's showing this compassion, and we should understand that he's put into this situation by Krishna. He's covered his natural spiritual understanding so that the Bhagavad Gita could be spoken for our benefit, for the benefit of the whole world. But Arjuna is showing that, kripaya, he's overwhelmed by compassion, and well, that's a good thing. But in this context, it's not a good thing, because the higher purpose that Krishna had for arranging for all this battle is to rid the world of the overabundance of military forces who are on the demonic side. He wants to reinstitute Dharma. This will become clear in chapter 4. Reinstitute Dharma, protect his devotees, and eliminate the miscreants. And it's important in the second chapter, nobody dies. All of these people who get killed there in Krishna's presence, they'll be elevated. So Arjuna's compassion is misguided, and when Arjuna surrenders as a disciple to Krishna and accepts him as a guru, first thing he chastises him. Ashocana machotistam, you're lamenting for what is not worthy of grief, which is the physical body. Now, a superficial look at this would say, well, this is pretty bloody and cruel and uncaring. But no. The Krishna's, because Krishna's there and he's all good, even the people who die there are being elevated, as with all the demons he killed in Vrindavan and Dwarka, So it's for their own benefit. Just like we know from, when you get to the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, and it's all about Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu, so many important teachings there. And Hiranyakashipu is kind of like the archetypal demon, His very name says it all. He wants gold and the soft bedding, and Prabhupada says the bed companion, And so it's good that he's killed. But then we understand, okay, it is good that he's killed. And this is one of 3 births that Jaya and Vijaya are going to go, and then they're going to return to Vaikuntha. So ultimately, it's for the good of the world. Hiranyakashipu is killed for the benefit of Prahlad, and Hiranyaksha was sent. And then you're going to have Shishupal, and then you'll have Ram and Kumbhakarna, his brother, will be killed by Ram, and then Shishupal and Dantavakra will be killed by Krishna. So that and all of them were benefited. Shishupal was beheaded in the Rajasuya sacrifice, and he, personally by Krishna. So it's all for the good, and it gets pretty, bloody in the latter part of Krishna's pastimes when he's in Mathura. He starts fighting, he takes up the Kshatriya mood. But it's all ultimately all good, and we should understand that. And this stage is being said here. He's crying now. Ashupurna collectionum. He's overwhelmed by this compassion, which is misguided. He's lamenting. So Krishna will first chastise him in the mood of a chariot driver encouraging the fighter. They're supposed to keep him. And so he'll say, "This is not Aryan. This is un-Aryan." And when we get to that verse, I'll show you a little change in the translation. That verse is the second verse we're going to study right now. Okay. Did you want to make a comment? Okay, go ahead.
So it's mentioning misguided lamentation, so with the lamentation that like Lord Chaitanya is expressing for, Jagannath and all these deities and such, that's proper, guided meditation. Totally. Or guided lamentation because it's directed towards the Lord, right?
Yeah, well, the lamentation comes in the separation. That's yes. The separation. That's perfectly appropriate. That's the highest levels of prema bhakti. To have this great anxiety, to meet the Lord, and to be lamenting in separation. And then if you study the Antya-lila, then he sees Krishna, and then he comes and and then again it's separation. So that churning of that emotion of meeting separation is at the highest levels of prema bhakti. It's different, than this. It's totally different species.
Thank you.
This is Mahamaya. He's put into Mahamaya so that he can be enlightened and we can be enlightened along with him. All right, text 2. Shri Bhagavano Vacha Kutustva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samapastitam Anayajishtam Asvargyam Akirti Kadamarjana. Now I'm going to make a little editorial change here because there's one word here you'll see in the translation and also comes up in the purports, and I'll explain why later. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the spiritual values of life. They lead not to higher planets, but to infamy." Purport. Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical. Therefore, Lord Krishna is referred to as Bhagavan throughout the Gita. Now, this is a whole explanation of that one word probably goes into. Bhagavan is the ultimate in the absolute truth. The absolute truth is realized in 3 phases of understanding, namely Brahman, or the impersonal all-pervasive spirit, Paramatma, or the localized aspect of the Supreme within the heart of all living entities, and Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1-11, this conception of the absolute truth is explained thus. Vadanti tat tat vivadas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeta paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. The absolute truth is realized in 3 phases of understanding by the knower of the absolute truth, and all of them are identical. Such phases of the absolute truth are expressed as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These 3 divine aspects can be explained by the example of the sun, which also has 3 different aspects, namely the sunshine, the sun's surface, and the sun planet itself. One who studies the sunshine only is the preliminary student. One who understands the sun's surface is further advanced. And one who can enter into the sun planet is the highest. Ordinary students who are satisfied by simply understanding the sunshine, its universal pervasiveness, and the glaring effulgence of its impersonal nature, may be compared to those who can realize only the Brahman feature of the absolute truth. The student who has advanced still further can know the sun disk, which is compared to knowledge of the Paramatma feature of the absolute truth. And the student who can enter into the heart of the sun planet is compared to those who realize the personal features of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Therefore, the Bhaktas, or the Transcendentalists who have realized the Bhagavan feature of the Absolute Truth, are the topmost Transcendentalists, although all students who are engaged in the study of the Absolute Truth are engaged in the same subject matter. The sunshine, the sun disk, and the inner affairs of the sun planet cannot be separated from one another. And yet the students of the 3 different phases are not in the same category. The Sanskrit word Bhagavan is explained by the great authority Parashara Muni, the father of Vyasadeva. The Supreme Personality who possesses all riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation is called Bhagavan. There are many persons who are very rich, very powerful, very beautiful, very famous, very learned, and very much detached. But no one can claim that he possesses all riches, all strength, etc. entirely. Only Krishna can claim this, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No living entity, including Brahma, Lord Shiva, or Narayan, can possess opulences as fully as Krishna. Therefore, it is concluded in the Brahma Samhita by Lord Brahma himself that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is equal to or above him. He is the primeval Lord, or Bhagavan, known as Govinda, and he is the supreme cause of all causes. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadadadi Govinda Sarvakarna Karnam. There are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagavan, but Krishna is the supreme because none can excel him. He is the supreme person, and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord Govinda and the cause of all causes. Brahma Samhita 5.1. In the Bhagavatam also, there is a list of many incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Krishna is described as the original personality of Godhead, from whom many, many incarnations and personalities of Godhead expand. Ete changsakala pungsa Krishnas tu Bhagavan Swayam Indradi Vyakalam Lokam Vidayanti Yuge Yuge. All the lists of the incarnations of Godhead submitted herewith are either plenary expansions or parts of the plenary expansions of the Supreme Godhead. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Bhagavatam 1:3-28. Therefore, Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, the source of both the Super Soul and the impersonal Brahman. In the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna's lamentation for his kinsman is certainly unbecoming, and therefore Krishna expressed his surprise with the word kutaha, where from. Such impurities were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. Time out. Rasika, you know how to turn this thing off? Just look for off and then press the button. I think you'll be able to do it, hopefully. All right. Okay, so here we are, class of men known as Aryans, right? And then you got it? Okay. It takes a while to go off. Yeah, hopefully. All right. The word Aryan is applicable to persons who know the spiritual values of life and thus have a civilization based on spiritual realization. That thus was taken out. I'll put it back in. Yeah. Persons who are led by the material conception of life do not know that the aim of life is realization of the Absolute Truth, Vishnu or Bhagavan. And they are captivated by the external features of the material world, and therefore they do not know what liberation is. Persons who have no knowledge of liberation from material bondage are called non-Aryans. Although Arjuna was a Kshatriya, he was deviating from his prescribed duties by declining to fight. This act of cowardice is described as befitting the non-Aryans. Such deviation from duty does not help one in the progress of spiritual life, nor does it even give one the opportunity to become famous in this world. Lord Krishna did not approve of the so-called compassion of Arjuna for his kinsman. So this is a rich purport. Now Prabhupada's good part of the purport is explaining, even that's part of this verse that isn't even in the verse. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the word Bhagavan. Now, just, I might as well deal with this. This is the second edition of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And the first edition, whenever there was this Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Prabhupada would say, he would dictate or type, in this case, he's typed the first couple of chapters. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said. Almost always he would type that. Sometimes the Personality of Godhead said. And that was all changed to the Blessed Lord said. The Blessed Lord said. That's the first editor he brought in, I think, from one of the other editions of Bhagavad Gita, which he was using, you know. So this is a controversial. It's not a revision, I would say. It's a going back to the original reversion. And here, this purport kind of makes it clear why we should keep this Supreme Personality of Godhead said. Even though the Blessed Lord said it's a little more poetic, you know, it's kind of biblical. Yeah. You know, yeah. Who blessed him? You know, blessed. I mean, the word blessed is okay. So there's a whole big issue, you know, with those who think, oh, why did you change? Why did you change? And so they prefer to read the old original edition, which has many more problems with it than that. But we have a review board of the changes, and I work with them. It's like a blue ribbon panel. Like there's Bhakti Vigyan Swami, who visited here, very learned, he's on it. Radhika Raman, very famous scholar, in the movement. Bhanu Swami is on there. Krishna Chaitra Swami, Keshava Bharati Swami, and Kalachandji, who's a long-time editor, college editor, the brother of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Yes, Kalachandji. And Krishna Rupa, who worked as an editor for the BBT for some time. So anyway, they're reviewing all this, and they decided to go back to approve this change. In other words, this was a good change, to make it all Supreme Personality of God, it said. And chiefly because Prabhupada is emphasizing here. He's talking about Bhagavan, and this, it should be reserved. So that was a very good decision. So we can read that. So here, right here, practically the beginning of the book, he gets into this whole, what is the definition of Bhagavan? And I think he refers to Parashara Muni. He doesn't quote the verse, but he explains it. The definition of Bhagavan: Aishwaryasya samagrasya viryasya yashasakshaya jnana vairagayaschaiva shannam bhagahitingana. These 6 opulences. Only Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, has them in full. Even you find his expansion, the Narayans, they don't have all the beauty that Krishna has, or the pastimes that he has. The Narayan forms are basically there in Vaikuntha Loka. They're expansions of Krishna. So there's this famous verse in the Bhagavatam that Prabhupada refers to, Ete changsa kalapangsa krishnastu bhagavan swayam. That's one half of the verse. After listing many of in the second chapter, I think this is text 28, not the second chapter, the third chapter. And they're listing many of the Leela avatars. Lord Nrsingadev, Matsya, Varaha, Kurma, and then he gets into, I think, I don't know if Parashuram, the 4 Kumaras are in there. They're not, there's a whole list. And then at the end it says, all of these are either parts of Krishna or plenary expansions. But Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam, that one line there is practically the Paribhas Sutra of the whole Bhagavatam. This is defined by Jiva Goswami as the verse that is the essence of the whole book, you see. And the essence of the whole book and our whole movement is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because it's Gaudiya Vaishnava and Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, those 2 things are found, everything flows from that. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. So here he gives a very nice expansion of the explanation of Bhagavan. And he quotes from Brahma Samhita. So having read that, the editorial review panel agreed that it should stay as it is. I'm glad they did. That would have been a battle royal. And Prabhupada quotes that verse I just mentioned, 1.3.28. I remember when I joined, that before email, so they had official ISKCON stationery from each center, so we had in Brooklyn, And I think this was following some Prabhupada's letters that he wrote. At the top of it, after it's ISKCON and then the address and where it's coming from, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam is in there. Because if you accept that one statement, that Krishna is God, and then you explore what the word Bhagavan means, it's more than just God, this is, it has full of these opulences, then that's the foundation of your practice of devotional service. That there is a God, and he's not impersonal, he's personal, and he's the most wonderful, attractive person, Now, one note on this, these 6. So you've got complete wealth, complete knowledge, complete strength, complete beauty, and complete fame, and complete renunciation. Now, renunciation, in the purport, I noticed Prabhupada used the word detachment. That's a little bit. That's the difference between vairagya and tyaga. Tyaga literally means giving up. That's literal renunciation. I renounce, my home. I take sannyas and I go to the forest. Literal renunciation. You may still be somewhat attached. right? You haven't perfected the vairagya part. The vairagya is more essential. And Krishna, he exhibited that, you know. He's with these 16,108 queens, or with the gopis, you know, they get a little proud, boom, he disappears. You know? In other words, he's engineering the whole thing. He's drawing out their love for him, you know, and everything. But if they adulterate it with a little pride, then he, you know, and then they go, finally they go, you know, they're going mad in separation, right? And they start imitating his pastimes. And then they start, they find Radharani, and she's also bereft. She also got a little proud, you know. And so they start, then, you know, it gets darker and darker. They go to the bank of the Yamuna and they start singing this wonderful song of separation, you know. So they're not at all detached from Krishna, you know. The point is that you got to be attached. What you want to be detached from is material things. So we want to cultivate vairagya. Now sometimes that also involves tyaga. Because if you're out of, you know, if you're separated from something, then you can develop but the real essence is to develop the attachment to Krishna. Then the detachment comes automatically. So that, and the verse itself mentions vairagya. It says vairagya. Aishwarasya samagrasya viryasya yashashakshya jnana vairagyyoschaiva shannam bhagahitingana. These shanna means 6. So this means, this is who Bhagavan is. All right, let's go on. What is that?
This word asvagryam, it means which does not lead to higher planets.
Yeah,
so that's the type of separation.
Is the higher planets. Asvarga means you're not going to heaven. In other words, Krishna, Arjuna hasn't surrendered yet. You know, so Krishna's taken the role of a chariot driver, responsibility. They buck up the courage of the fighter, so he'll, you know, fight. So usually, you know, they say, well, if you do your duty, you know, and fight in a righteous war, then it's a win-win. And he'll mention that if you're killed, you'll go to heaven, and if you're victorious, you'll enjoy on the earth. You know, so but what Arjuna is, he doesn't want to fight. That you don't go to heaven, and you don't enjoy the kingdom. You know, so it's a lose-lose. So that's why he's saying this is standard Kshatriya speak for the chariot driver. But as soon as he accepts him as the guru, God, then he changes his tune. You know, all right, let's go on. Text 3. Klaibhyam mas magavakparta naitattvai upapadyate chudram vidya daubalyam Chaktvortishta parantapa. O son of Pritha, that's another name for Kunti, do not yield to this degraded impotence. It does not become you. Give up such petty weakness of heart and arise, O chastiser of the enemy. Purport. Arjuna was addressed as the son of Pritha, who happened to be the sister of Krishna's father, Vasudeva. Therefore, Arjuna had a blood relationship with Krishna. If the son of a Kshatriya declines to fight, he is a Kshatriya in name only. And if the son of a Brahman acts impiously, he is a Brahman in name only. Such Kshatriyas and Brahmins are unworthy sons of their fathers. Therefore, Krishna did not want Arjuna to become an unworthy son of a Kshatriya. Arjuna was the most intimate friend of Krishna, and Krishna was directly guiding him on the chariot. But in spite of all these credits, if Arjuna abandoned the battle, he would be committing an infamous act. Therefore, Krishna said that such an attitude in Arjuna did not fit his personality. Arjuna might argue that he would give up the battle on the grounds of his magnanimous attitude for the most respectable Bhishma and his relatives. But Krishna considered that sort of magnanimity mere weakness of heart. Such false magnanimity was not approved by any authority. Therefore, such magnanimity, or so-called nonviolence, should be given up by persons like Arjuna under the direct guidance of Krishna. Okay? So now this is Arjuna's final argument here. And he's not ready to surrender yet. Krishna will have to speak the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna vacha katam bhishma mahang sankye dronang cha madhusudana ishubi pratiyotsyami pujarha vadisudana Arjuna said, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counteract with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona, who are worthy of my worship? Purport. Respectable persons like Bhishma, the grandfather, and Dronacharya, the teacher, are always worshipable. Even if they attack, they should not be counterattacked. It is general etiquette that superiors are not to be offered even a verbal fight. Even if they are sometimes harsh in behavior, they should not be harshly treated. Then how is it possible for Arjuna to counteract them or counterattack them? Would Krishna ever attack his own grandfather, Ugrasen, or his teacher, Sandipani Muni? These were some of the arguments offered by Arjuna to Krishna. Guru nahatvahi mahanubhavan Shreyo bhuktum bhaikshamapih loke Hatvata kamangs tu guru nihaiva Bunjiya bhogan hridada pratigdan. It would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gain, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. I think this is going to be changed. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with their blood. Very important. Purport. According to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in an abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. Bhishma and Drona were obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because of his financial assistance, although they should not have accepted such a position simply on financial considerations. Under the circumstances, they had lost the respectability of teachers. But Arjuna thinks that nevertheless they remain his superiors, and therefore to enjoy material profits after killing them would mean to enjoy spoils tainted with their blood. Nachaitad vidma katadanno gabriyo yad bhajayema yadivano jayehu yane bahutpa najajiva shamas Tevastita pramake dartarastra. Nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live. Yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. Purport. Arjuna did not know whether he should fight and risk unnecessary violence, although fighting is the duty of the Kshatriyas, or whether he should refrain and live by begging. If he did not conquer the enemy, begging would be his only means of subsistence. Nor was there certainty of victory, because either side might emerge victorious. Even if victory awaited them and their cause was justified, still, if the sons of Dhritarashtra died in battle, it would be very difficult to live in their absence. Under the circumstances, that would be another kind of defeat for him. All these considerations by Arjuna definitely prove that not only was he a great devotee of the Lord, but he was also highly enlightened and had complete control over his mind and senses. His desire to live by begging, although he was born in the royal household, is another sign of detachment. He was truly virtuous, as these qualities, combined with his faith in the words and instruction of Sri Krishna, his spiritual master, indicate. It is concluded that Arjuna was quite fit for liberation. Unless the senses are controlled, there is no chance of elevation to the platform of knowledge. And without knowledge and devotion, there is no chance of liberation. Arjuna was competent in all these attributes over and above his enormous attributes in his material relationships. So now comes the key verse and purport, because he surrenders now as a shishya, a disciple of Krishna. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava Prichami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha Yakshe yaksyan nishtitam bruhitan me Shishyaste hang shadimam tvam papannam. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Purport. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. In every step there is perplexity, and therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. All Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life, which happen without our desire. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place, and we become perplexed. The Vedic wisdom therefore advises that in order to solve the perplexities of life and to understand the science of the solution, one must approach a spiritual master who is in the disciplic succession. A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. Prabhupada used that supposed to mean said. Is said to know everything. It's understood that he knows. One should not, therefore, remain in material perplexities, but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purport of this verse. Who is the man in material perplexities? It is he who does not understand the problems of life. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 3.8.10, the perplexed man is described as follows. Yo va'et rakshadam garg yavid avidit basmal lokat prati sakripanaha. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human and who thus quits this world like the cats and dogs without understanding the science of self-realization. This human form of life is a most valuable asset for the living entity, who can utilize it for solving the problems of life. Therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a miser. On the other hand, there is the Brahman, or he who is intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all the problems of life. Ya'etad akshadam gargi vidit vasmal lokat praitisa brahmanaha. The kripanas, or miserly persons, waste their time in being overly affectionate for family, society, country, etc., in the material conception of life. One is often attached to family life, namely to wife, children, and other members, on the basis of skin disease. The kripana thinks that he is able to protect his family members from death, or the kripana thinks that his family or society can save him from the verge of death. Such family attachment can be found even in the lower animals who take care of their children or their offspring also. Children are human offspring. Being intelligent, Arjuna could understand that his affection for family members and his wish to protect them from death were the causes of his perplexities. Although he could understand that his duty to fight was awaiting him, still on account of miserly weakness he could not discharge the duties. He is therefore asking Lord Krishna, the Supreme Spiritual Master, to make a definite solution. Arjuna offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop friendly talks. Talks between the master and the disciple are serious, and now Arjuna wants to talk very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. Krishna is therefore the original spiritual master of the science of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. How Arjuna understands the Bhagavad Gita is stated in the Gita itself, and yet foolish, mundane scholars explain that one need not submit to Krishna as a person, but to, quote, the unborn within Krishna. There is no difference between Krishna's within and without, and one who has no sense of his understanding, this understanding is the greatest fool in trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita. So he's referring there, Dr. Radhakrishnan. That will
question about that purport?
Yeah.
How do you understand the sentence that you mentioned? A person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. What's the nature of that knowing everything? Is it omniscience? Is it knowing the essence? Is it left to interpretation?
Well, in other words, someone is a bona fide spiritual master who is submissive and receives the knowledge, then he's getting the knowledge from Krishna, because that's the whole qualification of the real guru, that he's probably said a transparent medium for living. The idea of channeling, which came up, this is true channeling. You're not obscuring, you're simply making the message understandable for a specific time and audience. and that was Prabhupada's genius. Especially translated into English. That was the key, you know. So, someone who is truly receiving the knowledge, and it's a bona fide spiritual master, and he's giving Krishna's knowledge as it is from the Gita, then as time goes on, he knows everything that he needs to know in order to go back to Godhead. You know, the essentials. Who am I? Who is God? What is this world? This is called Sambandha Gyan. How can I deepen my knowledge of that? You know, by the process of sadhana, that's called abhideya. And then the goal to really be reinstated back in our loving relation with Krishna. That's prayojana. So that's the idea, is that if someone is fortunate enough to come in contact with the genuine spiritual master, either directly or indirectly, but is willing to hear and to surrender to things that you may not understand right away, but you know, then you'll come to the point of knowing what's essential in life, and you'll be able to go back to God. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, we got many.
Prabhuji, can you shed some light on the dynamics of relationship between the student and the spiritual master?
The relationship?
Yes. I'm sure that you have been a student of Prabhupada, and you can shed some light on that.
Well, there's no mystery, you know. That's throughout the books we find that. But in the Bhagavad Gita, we have a perfect example of that. You know, where Arjuna is raising certain questions, and Krishna is clearing them, and we find, you know, of course, the 4th chapter, we find that famous verse, Tadvidi pranipatena parivashnena sevya upadekshanti tegen jnaninas tattvadarshana. That in order to understand that, which he's describing all the different sacrifices, but basically the intricacies of bhakti, then one has to surrender to and worship and serve and ask questions of a genuine spiritual master, someone who knows. And then it's like planting a seed. You know, the heart is fertile, ready to receive it, and the spiritual master can plant that seed, which he gets from Krishna, as we know from the teachings to Rupa Goswami. Brahmanda Brahmante Kom Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Pasare Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. It's like, so we're wandering all over the universe. Brahmanda Brahmate. You know, they would go up and down, different species have been going on, who knows how long it's been going on. So the fortunate soul who has been wandering, by the mercy of the Guru and Krishna, gets the seed of bhakti. You know, and Prabhupada pointed out, I heard a lecture, and the Guru's mercy is first. In other words, that by surrendering to the Guru, then you are introduced to Krishna, to the teachings of Krishna. And that hearing, that, you know, vibration, that pure vibration, that is consistent, you know, planting the seed, and it's a seed of desire. We already have so many seeds in there. We have nice, you know, flourishing weeds of material desire, and they have to be starved, you know, by only watering the creeper through hearing and chanting. And you are pulling out the weeds, you know, so they don't choke the real creeper. So that's what the Guru is essential there for, planting that seed, giving us the personality that we can be dedicated to, which will then make Krishna favorable to us. That's the whole idea. Yasya prasada, Bhagavat prasada, yasya prasada nagati kito. That verse at the end of the Gurvashtika. That by the grace, you know, the pleasure of the spiritual master, one will get the grace of Krishna. But if you don't get that grace, then you can't get Krishna's grace, because he always works through his dear devotees, you know, not directly. At least most of the time. Sometimes he comes directly, but even then, you know, he's always favorable to his devotees, and you see throughout the Bhagavatam how he's ready to, you know, advent himself and protect his devotees, great devotees like Prahlad, you know, and he also so often extends himself through great devotees like Narada Muni, who's, you know, just gives just what's needed for that particular person to take up Krishna consciousness, you know. So you can't get around the importance of the Acharya. as our direct link to Krishna and our only hope, really, of advancement. All right, time for our little poem. I was going through this song. Let's see if I have time. By Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There's a section of songs, and one of them I wrote a poem to, and it begins like Krishna Bhavandam Vande Manmanasamanta Kadama Payinita Patapankatamakadande. O Krishna, dearest Lord, I bow to you and then entreat. Please place to be in my restless mind in the honey of your lotus feet. Yadapi samadhisha vidadapi pashati nadamanakagamidicham idamicham in the shammitabacha tadapikapapadvicham. Though even Brahma, deep in trance, cannot achieve his goal, a glimpse of your effulgent toenails soothing to the soul. Because, O Lord, I've heard of your compassion's endless waves, that very vision is the only boon my poor heart craves. Krishna Bhavandam Vande Manmanasamanta Kadama Panimita Patapangarande. Sorry. O Krishna, dearest Lord, I bow to you and then entreat. Please place the bee in my restless mind in the honey of your lotus feet. Bhaktamadanchadi yantabi madhava nattvai mamatila matri. Padameshwara tatadapita vata kathugata kananavandatri. Despite great, O Madhava, despite great effort, I have not attained a glimpse of pure devotion. This has brought me endless pain. Yet though it seems impossible to ever fill this need, your monumental power gives me hope I shall succeed. Krishna Bhavandam Vande Manmanasamanta Kadama Payinata Patapankatamakadande. O Krishna, dearest Lord, I bow to you and then entreat. Please place to be in my restless mind in the honey of your lotus feet. I am a malolita yajasanata the kaladadvata dasabhavam nivasati nitya mahamati nindani bindan maranimasaram. Today, eternal Lord, please place my mind. Today, eternal Lord, please fix my mind upon your feet. The reservoir of endless pleasure, wonderful and sweet. I pray that for eternity my mind may there reside, to relish luscious honey that defeats ambrosia's pride. Krishna Bhavandam Vande Manmanasamanta Kadama Payinita Patapankatamakadande. Hare Krishna. It's in there. It's in there. It's in there. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare. Well, you bothered to come to the class, so you got the poem. The others will have to just try to find it on YouTube. And all of you who attended online, I know you're out there. Thank you for attending. All right, so we will resume with text 8 tomorrow. Now, this is unusual that you're here at this time, is it? Are you doing some special part?
Morning, I had a meeting, so I had to prepare something, so I didn't come in the morning.
Oh, so you didn't want to just not come at all, so you came in. We're fortunate that you came. You increased our attendance by 33%.